Hello and welcome to the GamerRoos Podcast. Today is April 8th, 2024, otherwise known as Eclipse Day here in Kansas City. We hope you had the ability to get some of those glasses and check out the eclipse today. It was quite neat. We did not get a full totality eclipse like you might have experienced, like 7 years ago now, in 2017. Yeah.
That only lasted literally a minute.
Well, yeah, the full effect of it, but this one, it was,
This eclipse went on for an hour before it fully went away. And I don't know about anyone else, but I had a massive headache during the eclipse.
It's a sign.
It's a sign. Yeah, it's a sign.
No, I had a great time during the eclipse. It was funny too because I remember reading an article about when it exactly started, and I watched my watch. I was like, oh wait, it's exactly 12:40. Shwing! Oh yeah, look at that. You can kind of see it in the bottom right corner. And then I kept tracking it over the next 10, 20 minutes. And what's funny is that I actually had a class, we weren't meeting for genetics today because of the eclipse. But my genetics class meets at 10 o'clock. But my one class that I would have had during the eclipse, I had Orgo lecture and Orgo lab. And naturally, we were still meeting for lecture. Granted, we got out of lecture early, so we could see the best part of the eclipse, but it's the entire time I'm sitting there in organic chemistry, I'm like, I could be looking at the sun right now.
Dude, I literally went to Hospital Hills. Can I borrow someone's sunglasses because I don't have my own? And this very nice young lady comes up and she's like, here, you can have mine. I'm like, thank you. And I just sit there staring at the sun for 30 minutes, and I'm like, or no, I probably for a good 3 minutes, and I'm like, well, this is all I needed to see. This is great. I'll see you guys later.
No, that's how. So I get out of Orgo lecture, and by that point, it's noticeably darker and cooler outside.
Which I thought that was really
that was cool. Yeah. And I was looking at, I was using my sunglasses. I was looking at the sun, and this one lady, she's like, she was looking at it. Hey, can you see it? I'm like, yeah, come over here. So I handed her my sunglasses. She was looking at them. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. She hands me them back, and she's still staring at the sun. I go, ma'am, you're really not supposed to do that. And she goes, well, why not? And I go, well, it damages your retinas. It overloads the rods, I think, in your retinas. She goes, oh, it's all right. Yeah, I can see it's red and green up there. That's crazy. I'm like,
Oh, it's red and green up there. Ma'am, you already broke it. You broke your eyes already.
Okay. Yeah, so.
Dude, I know. I was so concerned today because, the fact that my eyes hurt, or, I had, a headache, right around, the temple, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, did I, stare at the sun for too long? Because I had taken a nap before, and I looked up, I'm like, is this common? It's, very common. So if you get, if you had a headache during the eclipse like I did, it's, super common. Apparently it's something with, barometric pressure is different, and it can kind of affect some people.
Well, now you're talking about having a headache, and I feel like I get a headache.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Alex.
I'm sorry.
Side note for anybody here at UMKC who had to take Bio 108. One of those teachers, even if you have a doctor's note, I had the flu, for instance, and even if I had a doctor's note for his pre-lab quizzes, he would not make that up. That's tough luck, sorry kid, or, So I went into, this is November of 21, and I was sick as a dog, and I still went into the lab, and I did the pre-lab quiz, but I just was not sticking around for the lab. I could care about the points I was going to lose. I just needed the pre-lab quiz, and that was it. And then I bounced after that. And it was one of those far labs in the BSB, so it was right next to the stairwell. And I just picked up my backpack, and I just out the door and into the stairwell. Well, got pissed. And he chased me out the door, but I had already slinked into the stairwell. He thought I went to the Spencer building, to the chemistry building, and he started reportedly running down the hall. He abandoned class for 10 minutes trying to find me. No, literally. I got told after the fact. I was in bed just watching some YouTube. I was getting texts from my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, pissed." And I've been told by freshmen in the intervening years that there is now a big thing on the syllabus that they've pointed out to me because that's really weird. And I go, sorry, that's my fault. So if you're some poor freshman listening to this, I don't know, now, in the future, whatever the case may be, and you're wondering, why is that in my Bio 108 lab syllabus? I personally apologize.
But speaking of eclipses, Lethal Company recently got a new update.
Really?
And, yeah. We got additions to the mansion. It's not the mansion map, but some moons have a chance to spawn a mansion. On the mansions, there is this new enemy called the Butler. That's like a cockroach butler that tries to stab you if you get too close, and it will like stalk you through the entire facility. And there's also a giant mech robot that can spawn on some maps too. I have no idea why that's the case. Does it attack the big scary mobs? No. Does it attack you? Yes. Why? I have no clue.
Clearly, they got really lost in the way to Malevolent Creek.
Yeah. And on top of that, we actually got new maps. I don't really know what the new maps are because they're like secret maps. So there's probably more maps that we don't actually know exist yet, and we're probably going to have to like wait for data miners to find it. And as
data miners, we love you.
Yeah, data miners have really paved the way for finding that content that nobody found. There was one game that had like 68 like unlockable characters, and like no one knew the conditions to unlock them. They were just unlockable. So, and the data miners found it, and the data miners were like, we still don't know what the requirements are for these characters. But there's new updates to the map, so maps also like experimentation now has like a couple bigger buildings around the map. Assurance has some different rock layouts, so they kind of went out of their way and changed some designs. And Dine is finally not a useless map, that it just exists for no reason, and being inferior to every map regardless. So nice update.
Well, that sounds like you'll have a lot to chew on there, and you lead the company updates.
Yeah, I actually made a joke with my friend group today. I was like, guys, Earth is eclipsed, what do we do? And no one understood what I meant. They were like, just die. I'm like,
all right, so Alex here, to move on to our main point of the episode, is intending to play the hit 2007 video game BioShock.
Yes, I am currently trying to play. I'm divided on. I don't really know if there's a big difference between the remastered and the original.
I've played the original. I played it back in the day. I found a PC version on the cheap, and I have a DVD drive, so I was like, sure, I'll do it. The big difference that you're going to want to notice between the original and the remastered, really for me, was the weapon view models. In the original, they're super close. They're like 65 FOV or something like that. But in the remaster, the view model FOV specifically is way higher. So you'll be able to notice more details, and the Thompson doesn't look stupid anymore. The shotgun looks a lot better. That's the primary difference that I'm aware of. You could play either version, quite frankly, if you really wanted to. But I think the remasters are easier to find. And, of course, you get the benefits of better graphics, better audio, I think.
I have both. I have the entire collection of every BioShock game and its remake. So, and BioShock Infinite, that's like the third
game?
game?
Yeah, that's the third game. It's probably the weakest of the three, primarily. So, okay, quick side tangent for BioShock Infinite. Okay. You know how Last of Us Part 2 got in a lot of trouble because, like, really late in the game, they just went in and kind of, like...
Shifted the story
and changed everything?
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened with BioShock Infinite with Ken Levine, where originally it was supposed to be more akin to the first two games where it was like pseudo open world, but either that wasn't panning out or there was just a lot of last minute story changes that he wanted to do, and he wound up remaking a lot of BioShock, like scrapped a lot of content and put it back into BioShock Infinite, and that's why the game got delayed so much, and that's why there's still a lot of bad blood surrounding the BioShock license, was because of how poorly Infinite kind of came out and was received. There's just a lot of the depth of the game was removed because of concerns over BioShock Infinite and the, well, you have to understand when it came out. This was like the 2011, 2012, 2013 Xbox market. You know, kids like me were going to GameStop and going through like the $5 bins playing, you know, horrid titles like Medal of Honor Warfighter. So, and that's actually how I played BioShock Infinite for the first time. I was going through one of those $5 GameStop bins, and I saw, ooh, BioShock Infinite, $5, and I played it, and it had the reputation of being like, oh, you're not going to understand the story, it's so crazy. But then, like, I was like 12 playing it in middle school, and I understood it perfectly the first time. Like, I played it, and I was like, oh, it's just a many worlds thing. It's just alternate universes, and, this is all... Yeah, and it was just... Like, I felt it was really lazy because I was like, oh, I thought this was actually building to something, like, interesting. No, it's just many worlds, multi-universes stuff.
Dude,
relatively novel concept a decade ago. Relatively.
Multiverse... if a game ever if a game or a franchise ever starts to rely on a multiverse, that's just them saying, we have too many ideas and we can't do it all in one. Like, that's Marvel, that's DC. Mm-hmm. How many times has the Joker died in the comics?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, which one's the canon one? Oh, well, they're not all canon in their own regards.
Well, they're all just different stories. We're just using the same characters over and over again.
Yeah.
And making Kevin Conroy's living.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, I know.
And, well, okay, I guess that Mark Hamill, giving him an extension to his 15 houses somewhere.
So which BioShock would be, like, one of the best to play? Is one or two? Obviously, Infinite's out, so is it 1 or 2 is the best?
1 is probably the best experience of... If you're starting out with, like, kind of immersive sims, BioShock 1 is the best place to start. The first 2/3 of the game are pretty good. The last third kind of drags, but you're that far into it, you might as well just finish it. Mm-hmm. I've reportedly, BioShock 2 is not as bad as a lot of people said it was at the time, especially in light of BioShock Infinite, but it is definitely a letdown of a sequel compared to BioShock 1. And while BioShock 1 was a more intelligent deconstruction of objectivism and Randian concepts, BioShock 2 more clumsily handles the concept of collectivism, and arguably Atomic Heart does it better, but...
Atomic Heart's like a sequel to...
No. It's more of a... It's a spiritual...
successor.
Yeah, but not by any of the same guys. It's more like somebody took the concept of BioShock and was like, okay, instead of objectivism, we put it to communism. Mm-hmm. And it was well reported when it came out, but it just didn't capture the magic the same way BioShock 1 did. And yeah. So if you're going to play any of them, I'd play BioShock 1. The original or the remaster's fine. That's kind of the thing with 7th gen games, where like you can play basically any version of them so long as it runs on the PC at 60 frames per second, and you're probably going to be fine because it'll run it. If it runs at 60 frames 1080p, you're fine. Mm-hmm.
That's fair, and I think I will. I'm going to start with 1, then go to 2, and I've heard 2 has like a very love-hate game. There's a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, BioShock 2 is like the best BioShock game. And there's a lot of people who say like this is like the biggest piece of garbage let down. And a lot of people say that the game is better. It's got like Sonic Hero syndrome where it's like oh my gosh, I'm botching those S's. The game is so much better when you're younger, but when you're older, the game is a lot more like... It's like, oh, this isn't how I remember it.
Yeah, okay. To be fair, I have not played BioShock 2, and I've heard a lot of the praise that I've heard from it is kind of like contrarian in nature, where a lot of people approach it and they're like, well, this is so much better than Infinite, or everybody talks about 1, I'm going to talk about 2, and it's a fine game from what I've heard. Underwhelming compared to 1, but certainly not bad, strictly speaking. So you can play any of them, and they'd be fine. And if you do like those sorts of immersive sim titles, and you can always go back to something like System Shock 1 or 2. I love System Shock 1, for instance, and the remaster was actually really good. I prefer the original, like the enhanced edition original System Shock 1. I love, the remake is good. Probably not. You can't get as busted in the remake as you can in the first one, but arguably it's a better holistic experience. Like the difficulty doesn't just fade away after the engineering core. System Shock 2 is it's a cult classic. It's everybody loves that game. You got to do a little tinkering behind the scenes, and you got to follow a guide probably your first time through, just because the build system can be pretty polarizing. It was summed up the best by Mandalore Gaming when he said that in contrast to something like Deus Ex, where there's no wrong way to make a build, in System Shock 2 there's no strictly right way to make a build. So there's no meta, like intentionally so. So there's not something you can just kind of point to and go like, I want to do that. like the game kind of expects you to replay the first part of it over and over again until you find a build that just kind of works, and then go from there. And then when you're experienced with the psi energy system or the weapon mechanics or the tinkering system, that's when you go in and you start to make more specialized builds. So all the Shock games are good. Even I've railed on BioShock Infinite, but it's really not bad. It's just so much more shallow of an experience than BioShock 1 or 2, or even like any of the System Shock games or any other of the previous immersive sims.
For me, the biggest leap that I have to do to even play BioShock is just getting over its horror elements.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in the very beginning, I think it's like a game that just gets better the more you play it, because eventually you get like good weapons, and then it's like nothing's going to touch you, but it's kind of getting to that point that's difficult, because it's like, oh my god, so I'm going to get attacked, what do? I don't want to die.
The horror elements of BioShock 1 are primarily expressed through the medical plaza. There's a couple of scares later in the game, just trying to take advantage of the dark and seedy environment that BioShock finds itself in. But you do get used to it, and like you said, you get better weapons and such. So.
And then eventually the scares aren't scary because, oh, you jump in my face and die.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed BioShock 1 when I first played it for the first time back in 2017, 2018. I had a good time with it. I think I saved every little sister. I meant to do that just because it was, I just felt like,
That's my goal, because I know that you can get like a really good ending if you do that.
Oh, you can get the good ending just so long as you primarily save little sisters. Like, you can harvest one or two and it's not a big deal. But like, so long as you primarily save the little sisters, you will get the good ending. I don't think there is a good plus ending in the same way you might expect in something like Silent Hill.
Does Silent Hill even have such a thing as a good ending?
Oh yeah, Silent Hill 1. If you save Dr. Kaufman and you use the Aglaophatus on Sybil, you can get the good ending. Like, so long as you save Dr. Kaufman, you get the good plus, or you get the good ending. But if you save Sybil as well, you get the good plus ending, where you not only escape with the reincarnation of your daughter. Really long story.
Yeah, Silent Hill's lore is something else.
But you also save the lady cop to give you a gun.
It's weird because Silent Hill is like one of those like concepts that's like, technically you don't escape Silent Hill, but like the first game, it's like, oh yeah, no, technically in a lot of the Silent Hill games you escape Silent Hill. It's just the movies that was like, no, die, stay here forever.
The franchise was still being made in the first one, and that's really the only instance where you just escape and that was it. And even technically, like in Silent Hill 3, Harry still dies, unfortunately.
I know. Oh,
but that's really more of a Silent Hill 3 thing than it was ever hinted at in Silent Hill 1.
I forgot which Silent Hill is the one with the blonde-haired girl.
2.
2?
Well, okay, actually. That's Mary, James's wife, in 2. That's... Oh, God, what was her name in Silent Hill 3? But, yeah, no, the protagonist was a blonde chick in Silent Hill 3.
Dude, that game, the final boss of that game was, like, super awesome. Literally, the final boss is just called God. And it's...
Cutting to the chase with a 45.
Dude, I saw someone do that fight knife only, and I'm like, oh my god.
Actually, fun fact in Silent Hill 1, if you're fighting the good plus ending boss, because it flies around and it's out of reach of melee weapons, if you somehow get to that point in the game with literally 0 ammo, the fight will immediately end. Like, the fight begins, and then the boss just dies.
See, I wish more Silent Hill games did that, because there's genuinely some bosses you can get soft locked in if you don't have like the proper like equipment or ammo. And fun fact, you can do that in Call of Duty games too. My really incompetent ass got locked out of so many quests because I had no ammo.
Wait, quests in Call of Duty?
Well, quests as in the campaign missions.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we need to save woods. I have a knife. I don't have a gun.
See, okay, I remember when I was growing up, like, it didn't really register to me when I played something like Modern Warfare 3 for the first time. But you were carrying, like, 720... I'm really sorry about that. 720 bullets or something like that in your main weapon at the start of, like, each, mission. Which, if you actually, like, that is an insane amount of ammo to carry at once. Because typically, like your kit back then would be like your rifle, the magazine in it, and maybe like 3 extras. Mm-hmm. So you'd have like 30 bullets and 90 plus afterwards, and you might be carrying ammo for the MG or whatever, maybe a bipod or something. But to carry that much ammo would be insane. That's 24 magazines. Sorry, 720 divided by 30. 24 magazines. Like,
they're very good magazines.
Not a periodical, Alex. The tin box that carries your bullets.
Those magazines. Imagine just running around like, just like hooked around like your waist, like the grocery bags when you're trying to carry in all the grocery bags, and you're just like running around with all that ammo. The enemy won't find us here.
That reminds me of a D&D session I played where it was with a buddy of mine last semester. And we were playing a Mad Max campaign, and we had guns in the Mad Max setting. And my character primarily carried just a pistol and like a sledgehammer because he was a strength build. But towards the end of the game, we just got kind of carried away on the amount of guns that my character was carrying at any one time, especially because we had this running gag where I kept scavenging the pistols off of other people. So by the end of...
Triple pistol.
No, man, I had like 4 Berettas. Well, one of which was a Beretta. The other 3 were PT-92s. 2 MP5Ks, an M16, a sawn-off shotgun, a sawn-off rifle, what else was it? A grenade launcher and like a rocket launcher, all on my character. And I remember like pulling the DM aside and going like, dude, I should not physically be able to make stealth checks anymore. And he goes, I agree.
But we're going to allow it anyway. Yeah. Speaking of transactions, the one thing I want to talk about today is like microtransactions in video games. Particularly one big microtransaction that I've always noticed is like a bit, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I don't know how to properly word this. A big microtransaction gimmick that I see a lot of times in specific games, particularly like shooters, is always making like specific characters, like other than the default, locked behind like a paywall. Like recent Fortnite updates, Cerberus, you need to have the battle pass and have completed the battle pass in order to even get unlocking those kinds of characters. And I found it weird that I don't think you can actually buy some of them in the shop. You literally have to buy the battle pass, play Fortnite, and then unlock them. And honestly, I can't actually harp at Fortnite for having a battle pass because the battle pass is $8.
Is it only $8 in Fortnite?
It's legit $8. Compare that
to that's not even bad.
Dude, no, and you get a lot of crap. You can, if you actually complete the battle pass, you can use the V-Bucks that it gives you to buy another battle pass. And it's like genuinely a good deal.
I think it is the economy of scale, just because of how many players Fortnite gets, and the kinds of players that it attracts are the kinds of players that are going to more regularly pay by this point.
Yeah.
So in contrast to something like Call of Duty, which is a little more hardcore, so you're going to get a lot... Ironically, you're going to get a lot fewer players that are actually buying the Battle Pass just because they still remember a time when you paid $60 for a video game.
And you got the whole thing. I wish they would shut up. I'm sorry.
No, I know. That doesn't even really track to when I was a kid. I mean, granted, like Mario Galaxy or something like that. But even MW2, like, that was still... Not the 2020... You know what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That was still
I didn't even know that...
No, 3.
Call of Duty would have a battle pass. Like, what am I paying for?
It is just emotes and skins and stuff like that.
For a Call of Duty game? Bro, we all look the same.
I mean, yeah. Granted, the skins, there are a couple of notable skins that give you advantage. Like, the most infamous one is the Rose skin from Modern Warfare 2019. I don't even have to say a particular one, just the Rose skin, because it was almost entirely black. Like, black face paint, black helmet, black gear. And so it was super easy to just hide in a dark corner, because nobody could see you, because you were naturally camouflaged for the night. And I'm going to let you... Three guesses.
I can kind of imagine what it's like when you're completely pitch black and you're hiding in the shadows. And no one's going to see you.
Exactly. And then
you have a sniper.
Exactly. And there's been a couple other instances where it's worth it to go. The tree one for Modern Warfare 2022. That's the one I think of most recently, but I'm sure there's other overpowered skins.
No, I feel like that's just scummy, in all honesty, because it's like you're really just like selling better versions of specific characters. Like, can you imagine if League of Legends did something like that? Where, like, specific skins, like, gave you specific abilities other than just broken hitboxes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, that'd be super freaking stupid. Like, oh my gosh. I'm trying to imagine Heartseeker Ashe. Every auto attack, instead of slowing it, charms you instead. That would be the worst thing ever. Like, dude... Gosh, that's scummy. Like that's like the microtransactions I think that are just like horrible.
All from Activision. Well, okay, League of Legends isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, League of Legends. Oh my gosh, I will go on this very small tangent about League of Legends and their battle passes because like the battle pass in League of Legends is like $20, and you get like a bunch of like skins. Here's the thing: when it comes to skins, I only buy skins for champions that I have Mastery 7 with. Why? Why else would I want a skin for a champion I don't play? So you like, there's a lot of well-drawn skins in the game, don't get me wrong, but it's like I'm never going to use them. I don't play the champion. So why on earth would I waste money, like $20, to get a chance of getting a skin that I'm going to use? There's no reason.
See, like, the only game I've ever significantly invested digital cosmetics is probably TF2.
I was legit just about to bring up like TF2 cosmetics.
TF2 is regrettably responsible for a lot of different loot boxes, for instance. Basically, the concept was popularized in TF2 with Manco crates, and then later on with the case system after CSGO implemented it. And, like, it's not... The only reason why I defend it is because there's a community market, so you can always sell the skins that you have on the cheap. So you're not always buying it for like $5, $10 from the Manco store. You can always go onto the community market, like cycle down, and you can pay for a cosmetic for like 20 cents. And for 20 cents for a virtual hat, sure. Is it basically an NFT? Technically. But
it's a virtual hat.
It's a virtual hat that I bought for 20 cents.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm still going to say this. I genuinely cannot believe that TF2 is still like very popular to this day given how old it is.
Basically because TF2 runs on potato computers. It is a prominent free-to-play game on the largest digital store on the internet. The community basically perpetuates itself by the fact that TF2 is inherently very well designed. Both in the way the game plays, the way the maps are set up, and really the first two things are the biggest aspects of it, is just because it's on the biggest store and it's free to play. And so because it has such a good reputation, people come into it and they're always playing TF2 stuff. And, you know, so I still play, I mean, granted, I only really play TF2 during October, during the Halloween event. I virtually never played TF2 otherwise. Not that I wouldn't have a good time playing TF2, honest to God. It's just... That's just when the most exciting season is.
My biggest gripe with TF2 is that, like, genuinely, there are some characters where if you are on a map, they're useless. Like, there is, like, half the maps in the game, the engineer is, like, the most worthless person to have.
Not strictly, because, I mean, in Koth maps, he's really important for getting people to the front lines. And just even having a sentry gun, like a layer or two behind, is really important to make sure you don't like get pushed back to your spawn. You have to push out of spawn. The only character that, I mean, none of the characters are useless, even in maps that really don't favor them.
It's just in some maps that don't favor them, it just feels like they're at such a disadvantage that they just don't feel playable. Like Sniper is really good, but if he's in like a map that has virtually no good like,
sightlines,
sightlines or very easy to like reach sightlines, he's just gonna die. He's not gonna do anything.
Yeah, and I mean in those instances, it's frustrating because when you're building a map, you have to very much balance those longer sightlines with Sniper. Like he controls a lot of the broader strokes of map design, but at the same time, I mean, you know, it's. I would disagree and say that none of the classes are useless in all maps. It's just there are some maps where it's like, I'm not going to pick Sniper for that one map where you're inside. I think it's 5 points. No, it's not 5 points. So.
Dude, they're one of the Halloween maps. It's that one map where you gotta like make the the cart reach the end.
Oh, yeah. Hell Tower.
Hell Tower Sniper is so freaking worthless in that map. There is nowhere for him to go.
There are a couple of decent sniper spots in Hell Tower.
Every time I play Helltown, I never see someone lock in Sniper. Like, everyone on that map is Scout. It's just Scout and Heavy.
Yeah.
And, what's his face?
I've tried to play Sniper the last few times I've played that map, only because when you go to Hell at the end of the map, there's actually some really good sightlines, because everybody's going for the top because they want to get the I think it's the Bombonomicon, maybe. I don't remember off the top of my head. But like everybody's running up there and you have no sightlines to the other side, so you can just stand there as Sniper and just watch the path. That's a really good way to rack up some kills for the Halloween contracts, and it usually works. I personally, when I play TF2, my mains are Scout, Heavy, and Medic, because I like hit scan weapons and I like healing people, and I suck with projectiles. I'm serviceable at the very least with Soldier, but that's only because I know which points to choke or to spam, because I've been playing the game for long enough.
Soldier's fun to play. I enjoyed Soldier.
Demo Man can be fun when it works out, but then sometimes you just trace the path around the target and it just doesn't.
Pyro, I swear, like, back on the topic of just unplayable maps, there are some maps where Pyro just doesn't feel like you're doing anything.
That's a feature of Pyro in general. Pyro is very much more of a player destruction class than it is a beneficial class for any particular objective, unfortunately. Like sometimes if you're playing, like, spy checking primarily, but Pyro's best as an ambush class, just running up from behind and all that. And sometimes, like, if you're on the payload cart or you're just trying to make sure that a particular point, like in a close space, stays enemy free, then Pyro works. But there are a lot of instances where just your range as Pyro really sucks, and that's why they try to give him the flare gun. But honestly, I've never really had much use with the flare gun. I prefer to run shotgun with Pyro, which is virtually unheard of. But a lot of players also aren't expecting it. So I get into a fight with a Soldier, right? And Soldier counters. Well, no, Pyro's supposed to counter Soldier pretty hard, but a lot of soldiers have figured out how to keep at range and then, kind of expect the flare gun. But then you whip out the shotgun and you completely set them off. Like, they're right outside your flamethrower range, but they're not outside your shotgun range. And usually you can clean up pretty well with a couple of well-placed shots. Shotguns are especially helpful on Pyro v Pyro matchups, only because Pyro doesn't resist fire, but he also doesn't take afterburn damage. So otherwise Pyro is kind of like the bastard child of the TF2 classes, I guess. Just kind of kicked around a lot.
Right. And see, we kind of diverged from microtransactions.
Sorry.
But no, it was kind of relevant in terms of kind of like how money kind of affects like how some characters play. Like in TF2, you don't really see this as a problem. Like, no character is going to have like special abilities that you have to pay for. But then I start thinking of there are some games out there, like non-gacha games, where like you are essentially paying for an entirely new character that has all these special abilities, like pay-to-win characters, and that leads me to like fighting games. Because like in terms of like, TF2 doesn't have this problem because it's a shooter, and there's, unlike Call of Duty, there's not a lot of ways to make a character specifically OP, because they're all just the presets. They depend on skins to be different. But in fighting games, we see that there is a big problem of like BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is a great example. There's a character named Yumi who's in this $20 DLC pack. And granted, this $20 DLC pack comes with some really overpowered characters. But Yumi was like an infamous character in this DLC pack because Yumi can deal over 40k damage in an easy-to-implement combo. And it's so easy, I could literally tell you the input right now. It is hit the square button 4 times. She goes into her auto. Okay. Then you hit down circle so that she will do this ice ability where she dashes in the air and goes down, and it resets her combo. So then you can hit the square button 4 times, and then you need a quarter circle 4, so she throws her fan, pulls the enemy back, square, 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 and then you need a quarter circle R1, so she does her super. Quarter circle circle, so she'll dash at the enemy, and then you do need to do that twice. 40k damage, basically chips health bar to nothing. And that kind of character
Well, how else are they going to sell the DLC?
I know, but it's like really like 40k damage on one character that doesn't even need the combo. Like I just picked her up for fun, and I just genuinely was like, wow, this character, I don't even know who she is, but like is completely unstoppable. And then you actually like look at the tournament, and I kid you not, the actual Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle tournament, the very last tournament, was legit just Yumi. Everyone had Yumi on their team, and I think that's a very big testament of an unbalanced character.
I know you'd mentioned earlier that shooters don't really benefit from those kinds of predatory microtransactions, but from my experience with Modern Warfare 2022, that is very much still possible. For instance, the most blatant example is the armor sets that they released with particular characters in relation to DMZ. But the problem is nobody plays DMZ. So the flat benefits you get to, like, you start out with more armor, or you res players faster, doesn't matter when nobody plays the mode. And even then, the benefits that you get are pretty minimal in a mode that is tougher than it should be. That's always my complaint with DMZ, is that it's tougher than it should be, and so it's not fun. So
make the problem solve the solution.
Exactly.
And actually, that's a very common tactic in MMOs.
Hold on. To finish my point in 2022 real fast, whenever they'd release a new DLC weapon, it would be pretty obviously busted right when it came out, but you have to put in so many hours on the battle pass, even the free battle pass, in order to unlock the free weapon. Like, you couldn't just do a challenge in like power level headshots or something. You could do it after that battle pass had ended, so it's never locked. Whenever the new weapon would come out, it would be noticeably pretty good with some kind of weird combination, and you'd either have to play like 20 or 30 hours on the battle pass in order to power, well, maybe not to that extent, but to get to that point, and then you unlock the weapon, and then you have to power level that weapon in order to get the meta loadout. Or you could just buy the weapon, because there's always a DLC pack that comes out right when the battle pass comes out, specifically for that weapon. And of course, that's kind of where it comes from. So,
you know, I start thinking about a shooter that it's just technically a shooter, but Garden Warfare, PvZ Garden Warfare.
That's a shooter, yeah.
Yeah, it's technically a shooter. But I remember they actually had specific characters that they sold as DLC. And I think Overwatch did the same thing. I'm not sure. DLC characters. But I've noticed that particularly in those kinds of games, the DLC characters are not as overpowered as we kind of are. They're not as overpowered as you'd think. It's not like Yumi from Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. Like, one of the characters in the DLC pack for PvZ was Torchwood, and Torchwood, he was good, but he was not something that's like game breaking. Like, Torchwood could light zombies on fire, but another character who had a similar mechanic was Chomper with poison, but he did like essentially Chomper's poison from ranged. So his whole mechanic was around lighting the enemy on fire and then dealing overtime damage, but it didn't really like break the game. And I think, and that's EA. EA did that, and EA is infamously known for their absolute scummy as marketing tactics.
No, EA is a wonderful company, and I totally invest in them.
Yeah, EA. It's in the game.
Challenge everything.
Challenge everything. You know, I don't want to diverge too much, but EA used to make good games. What happened? Remember the Harry Potter games?
Oh man, EA was jacked up even back then.
I mean, that's true, but
EA hasn't been a decent publisher since.
You know, speaking of scummy marketing, EA.
I mean, they're not. I would hazard to say they're not as bad anymore as they used to be. Primarily because a lot of the things that they invest in are just straight flops.
How many more maddening games are we gonna get before we realize this series is boring?
What was it like? FIFA took away their license for the series, or wanted to take away their license for the series, not because EA like violated any like aspect of the contract. The games just sucked, and like you had like the suits behind the FIFA World Series. You know, they're sitting down and playing these games, going, "Yeah, this isn't fun." I keep hearing from my kid and my kid's friends about how the series just isn't fun. The series sucks. And they're like, what do you want us to do about it? We're releasing it yearly. I don't care. Figure it out.
Make the game not this.
Exactly, yeah.
Dude, EA Gosh, okay. There's one biggest thing I hate about EA.
You can define it down to one?
Yes, is the fact that so much of their single-player content is locked behind online. You can't play single-player in any of the Garden Warfare games unless you're online. And that is so bullshit.
Everything behind, like, always online games pisses me off. And Ross, God bless you. I don't think your lawsuit's going to work out, dude. But if it does, I'll build a statue to you. I'll do it here in Kansas City. I'll put it on. I'll buy a 5x5 square in downtown, and I'll put a statue up in your honor.
Dude, okay. There's one other thing I want to talk about with EA. There is this one motto that was like, EA. This one video making fun of EA, and they're like, EA in a nutshell, corporation, gaming, and you.
I mean, like, I'm kind of glad that a lot of EA's bigger budget like Anthem. God, was Anthem an EA game?
Maybe.
Possibly. They released something akin to Anthem, and that wound up flopping hard. And I think EA is still trying to recover from that.
How many more bad games are they gonna make until they just decide to make a decent game? Or is that just not possible for EA to do that? They just had such a toxic nature with bad games. They're like, how do we make a good one? Imagine if EA was running Clash of Clans. I mean, can you imagine the microtransactions?
Oh my God, Clash of Clans. Oh my! I remember in middle school, so Clash of Clans has gotten to the point where a lot of people are nostalgic for it, but I even remember back in middle school, I hated Clash of Clans.
The game is so boring.
See, the problem is that they restrict you one builder for so long at the beginning of the game, and you're constantly trying to build. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to rip my friggin' hair out because I can't do anything in this game. Because I'm trying to build all this stuff and I keep getting raked over the coals by all these people invading me because I can't build all this junk fast enough. Or you have to get up in the middle of the night, or you have to do this, that, and the other for, I never found it fun, and I never liked playing it. And these days, everybody's like, yeah, I don't know, Clash of Clans, they don't make them like they used to.
No, Clash of Clans has never been like they used to.
Oh my God,
Dude, that also goes into scummy marketing tactics because.
Thank God the mobile game industry is dead.
Yeah, well, it depends. Gotcha games pretty much stole the mobile gaming scene.
Thank God.
Honestly,
if I had to hear one more commercial about the Legend 27.
I'm gonna be honest. Gotcha games could be scummy, but I think gotcha games are much more fun in terms of their free-to-play content than any of those Clash of Clans, because I think when it comes to scummy marketing tactics that we see with microtransactions, mobile gaming really took that by storm. Clash of Clans is a great example. Limit the player as much as possible and force them, make them so frustrated
that they have to buy something.
But I think when it comes to gacha games, what I actually like about them compared to Clash of Clans games is that a lot of times gacha games don't hold your game progression hostage behind characters, and you'll notice that gacha games that do hold your progression behind by super UR characters never take off, because I think what they don't understand is free-to-play players are really what define a fan base, and that's what attracts whales. But if a game is too competitory or a game is too money hungry, it actually drives away players who would otherwise play it. Summoner Wars Chronicles and Summoner Wars is a gacha game, but it's a game that really allows you, anything is viable. You can use 1-star boar if you really needed to, and it would be viable for the main campaign, even on hell mode. But if you really wanted to get into the PvP, you're going to have to invest in good characters. But there was, I think at some point, an actual free-to-play player was at an esports, which that to me is lets me know that sure, you can get the good ones by spending money, or you can also devise a strategy with the characters that you already have. And that to me is what makes a good game. But when we look at games like Clash of Clans, or even you could look at games like Puzzles and Dragons, which it's a gotcha game, but really it sucks. It's very, very boring, and the late game content is if you don't have any good characters, you're not progressing at all. But Clash of Clans locking a lot of that content makes free-to-play players not want to play the game. Even you could look at a game like My Little Pony Adventure. This is hilarious.
What?
My Little Pony Adventure for the fucking iOS literally will like lock your progression in the story out by like not having rare ponies. I remember this because as a kid I used to play the shit out of this game. But when it locks your story progression behind that stuff, it's like, oh, you want to advance with the story? Okay, wait, and I'm not joking, 48 hours.
You just mentioning My Little Pony took me back to middle school, and not in a good way.
I'm just saying, I always enjoyed the game because I liked those kinds of games. Okay, and I think that's where our episode is going to end.
Yeah, that's probably for the sports update. For all you Cardinals fans out there, I know we're broadcasting in KC, and I'm a Cardinals fan. But you know what? Our start to the season hasn't been bad, considering that we didn't really do much over the off season. 500 baseball team is not bad at all. We've had some good wins against some good teams. Not the Dodgers, but, and our pitching staff is surprisingly better than we expected. I'm still upset that we let Kisner go. I think, no shade on the other, on the backup catcher, but I really like Kisner. I was probably his one fan in all of St. Louis, but, hey, I got a platform and I'm telling you how it is. But otherwise, not a bad start to the season. I'm really looking forward to the Cardinals going forward. Hold on. Actually, I think there's a game going right now. I wonder what the score is. Never mind. We're losing 2-0 against the Phillies.
Makes sense. You suck.
Anyways, thank you for listening to the GamerRoos Podcast. I apologize for the gap in uploads like there usually is, but quite frankly, it's the end of the semester, and I'm about to graduate, so
end
these
of the
things happen.
semester, and I am behind on everything but my English.
Yeah. Anyways, have a good night. I hope you enjoyed the eclipse, and catch you later.